The following audio-supported podcast is intended for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. Please speak to a healthcare professional before making any treatment decisions. The guests on today's show were paid to participate in this podcast.
Hey listeners, it's your friend, patient advocate, and host of Thal Pals, NinaMaria, and we have a very special conversation with advocates across PK deficiency, thalassemia, and sickle cell who have partnered in the Red Cell Revolution sponsored by Address Pharmaceuticals. For a little background, the Red Cell Revolution is a group of patients, caregivers, and healthcare professionals dedicated to giving a voice to those impacted by rare hemolytic anemias around the world and to bring awareness, support, and hope. The initiative is focused on using their commonalities to amplify their reach while also supporting the individual diseases. And I have to say this is a special one for me, not only being a part of the Red Cell Revolution, but that I get to be joined by folks who have become really good friends of mine. So why don't you guys introduce yourselves, tell us what rare hemolytic anemia you live with, and how you advocate for those with your condition. Jill, we'll start with you.
Hi, I'm Jill Welly, and I live with pyruvate kinase deficiency. And I have been obviously born with this, and it's been a long journey. But being part of this red blood cell revolution has just been life-changing and amazing for me. And I'm just so honored to be here to talk and represent the PKD community.
My name's Larisse Levine. I have transfusion-dependent beta thalassemia. And I have been a longtime advocate, working in the healthcare setting, collaborating with Cooley's Anemia Foundation and the Thalassemia Support Foundation when it existed, and currently working with patient advocacy with biotech.
Hello, I am Cassandra Trimnell. I am founder and executive director at Sickle Cell 101. I live with sickle cell disease myself, and Sickle Cell 101 is the largest digital advocacy organization within sickle cell, reaching over 3 million people annually. 75% of them are individuals living with sickle cell in 130 countries. Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So you've all been a part of this group since 2022. Cass, I want to know, how has being a part of the Red Cell Revolution impacted your advocacy journey?
That's a good question. I realized that advocacy extends beyond sickle cell, and that we have family members outside of the sickle cell community, but inside of the hemolytic anemia community. And I find myself not only speaking for sickle cell, but speaking for thalassemia and PKD as well. And, I continue to learn more. I was having a conversation with Jill the other day, just, trying to understand the disorders a little bit better so that, if that comes up, I could, be another voice.
Awesome. Larisse, what is important to you as a Red Cell Revolution advocate?
Well, I love being part of something that's unique and innovative and groundbreaking. And I felt like Geo started that, and bringing together 3 rare in this country diseases, not rare around the world, to advocate and learn about each other. I mean, we're only stronger together. And if we can learn about other aspects of conditions that things that bring us together, make us similar, things that are different, I just feel like it makes me a stronger advocate. Information is key to any kind of success. So just having more information about various other conditions is really helpful. And it's been an honor to work with experts like the 2 ladies here and learn from them.
As part of this initiative, you guys have been sent to conferences of the other rare hemolytic anemias. Jill, what has that been like for you, and what have you learned from the other groups?
It has been really eye-opening. I think for me, when you live with disease for so long and for decades feeling alone, just in my disease and having this awareness of people that are in the same boat, very similar. We have a lot of commonalities. And learning about these thalassemia and red sickle cell is been really eye-opening for me, knowing that I'm not alone in this. And like Larice said, I can advocate outside of PKD. And just attending these conferences and being around hematologists and these experts and these smart people and the who's who, I'm like, this is just so amazing. I feel out of body. Just for the fact that I've been talking to hematologists in my community for decades that had no idea how to treat me. And now, anytime I find out I'm standing in line with a coffee with hematologist, do you know what pyruvate? Do you treat patients with pyruvate kinase deficiency? Do you know what it is? Can anybody talk to you about it? I'm educating in lines at the airport, in restaurants. I'm talking to everybody, and it has just been so wonderful and eye-opening for me. And it feels like it feels bigger than me, and I get very passionate and even more enthusiastic about the mission of the red blood cell revolution because of it.
Agios is a biopharmaceutical company that's fueled by connections with patient communities, healthcare professionals, partners, and each other. Building on these connections and the company's unmatched leadership in PK activation, Agios is pioneering therapies for rare blood disorders, including PK deficiency, thalassemia, and sickle cell disease. To learn more about thalassemia, visit rethinkthalassemia.com. To join the conversation with other patient allies, follow us on Instagram at Ally Voices Rising. That's Ally, A-L-L-Y, Voices Rising.
Being a part of this group, how has it empowered you to advocate for the other rare hemolytic anemias along with your own?
I think it made me aware that I am in a new group, and it's, hereditary hemolytic anemias. And so, it's not just sickle cell, and I'm able to, again, I guess, speak to some of the commonalities that we share and speak to some of the experiences that we share. And it's no longer about, one disease. It's about all of us, right? And pushing the needle for all of us. And yeah.
Absolutely. Larice, what has it been like, and what have you learned from others when it comes to our common challenges? We all face things like transfusion burden, fatigue, stigma. How has being a part of this group helped collaborate on that front?
Part of it is just devastating that so many of us have to deal with all the extras like medical insurance and work issues and the fatigue. So it's disheartening that more than, you just hope that it's you and that you're the only one suffering. But it's hard to see others go through the same thing. However, then I want to provide, like if I can work on getting a service for thalassemia, like kids to camp, I'm like, well, PKD doesn't have any camp, so let's get them a service on board, like trying to, instead of that desperate feeling of there's so much that needs to be done, I try to do one little thing at a time if I can.
Jill, what has it been like for you? What have you learned from the collaboration with the other patient advocates?
Just going off of what Cassandra and Larice were saying is that there's power in numbers. Hearing what you're doing on your own advocacy part of things. What are your challenges? Not only on a personal level, like day-to-day living, navigating the medical system, the insurance challenges, those type of tips, but also on the advocacy side. What are your outreaches? What can I do in the PKD community? So that information sharing has just been invaluable. But also on a personal level, I made some longtime friends outside of my own disease state because we're sisters in rare blood diseases. And like on the Uber ride on the way here, she was asking questions, and I was, giving her a recap on my little elevator pitch on PKD. But I know that when you've got a blood cell that is out of shape and not cooperating, it wreaks havoc everywhere. That every blood cell matters and every person matters. And this is what the red blood cell revolution is doing, that everybody matters at any level. And that inclusion is so powerful for me.
Cass, in what ways do you think that these communities can work together to further mentor and connect when it comes to patient advocacy?
I've learned a lot this past, week or weekend on, some of the deficits that, the other disease states have. Something that we might take for granted. For example, another advocate mentioned, being told to drink your water. That's something we're told, day one. My mom always hounding me and following me with a water bottle, right? But that's what keeps me healthy. So to not have access to that information, I can imagine it being very, very difficult. And so understanding those deficits to equalize where we are and to make sure that we're moving forward together and we're not leaving anybody behind is really the goal here. And just want to make sure that, there is equal representation in all of this. And I do think, it's been said already, there's power in numbers, and, we can push further together. And so that's my mindset, and, just continuing to learn about both disease states is going to be very, very important for me to really understand and really know how we can best, support each other.
Yeah, that's so beautifully said. And I think gleaning from what you touched on, I myself have seen this beautiful synergy and collaboration when it comes to learning from each other. I think all 3 disease states have learned something from one another in this group. And Jill, I want to hear from you, because I've heard you speak on kind of the guidance that you've kind of received from partnering with other folks in thalassemia and sickle cell.
Just again, going off with what we've been talking about, is that feeling of not being alone in this is more powerful than I could put words to. And also for my own quality of life, my own self-care and awareness of what other people are doing, what they're sharing with their lifestyle, their challenges, what helps them. That connection of information down to that level has been really helpful. But also just the connections in the community. Your healthcare teams, who you're talking to and who you're advocating with. And, I love the Coolies group. I met with them, and the sickle cell teams, meeting the players in that area is so empowering and so informational for me about what I could be doing more for advocacy as well, and in the PKD community. So that synergy has just been really, really invaluable. And that information sharing, I always say, is knowledge is power.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think when we bring each of our individual perspectives to the table, it really widens our range and it amplifies our voice. So I think it's been really remarkable to watch that happen. I want to know from each of you, what has been maybe your biggest personal takeaway from being a part of this group? And maybe it's very specific to you, but maybe it's something that you can even take back to your community. Cass, we'll start with you.
That's a good one. So many great takeaways and so many, opportunities to educate our community as well. You know, like, hey guys, we're not in this alone. There are definitely differences that, you know, are important to call out as well. But it's been very eye-opening to see all the commonalities that we've had, and how we can kind of band together to represent those and to prioritize what works for all three of us, and be that force. So it's been very eye-opening to understand their experiences and how similar it is to mine. And, you know, we're all dealing with doctors who don't know much about our conditions. We're dealing with, you know, long ER wait times, and we're dealing with jaundice and fatigue and, you know, all of those things. And so it's really feels like we're doing all of this together.
I feel like we've learned so much from each other, and we're empowered. And my goal, what I want to take away or give away, is to work on disparity in healthcare for all the disease states, both here in the United States and globally, because there's so much disparity. And I believe that disparity stems often from, I mean, of course, lack of resources and climate and demographics, but also education of our medical providers in just not understanding what the proper treatment is for something as simple as like a hemoglobin level. So I'm hoping that what we can take, we've spent some time, you know, analyzing the disease states and what we have in common and what's different. I want to take that and hopefully use that information to help the global community for the 3 disease states and beyond.
Amazing.
On a personal level, it has been life-changing for me to have these connections. As I was saying, I was not under the proper treatment for a number of decades. And just recently, the last 5 years, I found a hematologist through connections that got me to proper care. My quality of life is better. Thus, I feel like I'm going to have a longer lifespan. It has been a safety net for me. I no longer feel, there's still unknowns, but I feel like I have resources. I have a community to go to, and I'm not alone, and it sifts down to that I'm not as terrified as I used to be. On an advocacy level, being part of the red blood cell revolution is what I am envisioning, and where my initial passion was, but I went in another direction in my career, is partnering with the PK community about nutrition around inherited anemias. What can we do to maximize and take control of our own health outside of the traditional medical system for what we're putting into our bodies, and what can we do that might help? And there's a lot of shared across the disease states, shared commonalities of what we're going through and how we're feeling, the fatigue. And what can we do to control that through not only our intake of nutrition, but also from a mental health standpoint, because there are a lot of challenges here. We don't always talk about mental health, what this does living with a rare blood disease, and tapping a little bit more into that. So, and I'm just excited to share that in the PKD community, but across all disease states. That's what I'm envisioning. It's out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well said. Well said. We touched on this earlier, but we recognize that each disease has its own individuality to it. They are separate, even though, you know, we do experience a lot of similarities. Reese, can you touch on how that could be an advantage to us, that we are individualistic?
I mean, I think there's always advantage in uniqueness and differences. It is, do we use that in our favor or not? there's so much stigma around sickle cell and pain that when thalassemics went to the ER 20 years ago, they're like, you're acting like a sickle cell patient. And it's like, that's awful. And that's not going to happen under terrible things, terrible stigmas, lazy thalassemics, all kinds of stuff. But those things are stigmas for all of us. But if we understand, okay, this is why hydration is important for sickle cell, or cold weather, or nutrition, and trying to come together and saying what helps all of us, even though, like nutrition, even though we have differences, let's find the commonality and work towards that. But also recognizing that we're individuals, that, I get blood transfusions every 2 weeks like clockwork, and that's my difference between. But I feel like not using it as a weapon, because a lot of times professionals use our differences as weapons, and I won't allow that.
I love that, using it as a strength and not a weakness. Cass, is there anything that you've gleaned from being in this group that's surprised you?
Just hearing the experiences and how similar they were. I guess to kind of build off of what Larissa was saying, there are aspects, and, we're together as a group, we're, doing research and uncovering priorities, and they may look different for each group in a way that it's nuanced to that particular group. So, for example, when I talk about pain in sickle cell is different than, pain in, PKD or pain in thalassemia. And so uncovering those nuances has, I guess, been eye-opening and I guess more so great to learn, just how some of these symptoms and complications present themselves differently within it. But then, there is that overarching barrier, right, that all of those nuances fit under, that we can still, go to bat for together and fight for together.
Jill, where do you see the future of patient advocacy for hemolytic anemias, and how is the red cell revolution kind of bringing that to life? How can it bring it to life?
I think this is an incredible group of people that are, living with challenges every day with their blood disease, but they're coming together with this passion to advocate and share this information for future generations. And for me, that collaboration is, like I say, more power in numbers. I picture the future of this expanding out into, at least personally, I would like to bring this to a local level awareness. For example, next month is donor month, right? Awareness for giving blood. I'm reaching out to the local news channels and trying to find a thal, sickle cell, and myself to talk about the importance of giving blood. Give me a 3-minute segment on a Minneapolis television show, and we're going to make a difference. But I would have never thought of that idea or advocating at that level. I couldn't do it just with PKD. I need the other disease states to say why this is important. So I think that collaboration of information sharing and all these ideas from a local level, global level, worldwide level, where there are needs that are really unmet, to get our voices raised up in those communities as well. I think there's still a lot of work to do, but I don't think we can do it alone. It has to be across all disease states with this collaboration.
I love that. Larissa, where do you see the future of advocacy for these groups?
I'd just like to see it continue to grow, adding maybe more members and making a difference with ending so much disparity on a global level. So when drugs become available, making them available where these diseases are more common. That's always my goal, is to make it easier. and educating, younger people as we get older. It's really important that we have another generation. They've had it much easier. They haven't been undertreated like I was or Jill. Their care isn't so mismanaged. And so sometimes that leads to some apathy and less motivation to make a change. But we have to keep that history and also train the next group of individuals. So I'd like to see maybe younger representatives join us so they can kind of carry the torch, 20s, 30s, teens, older teens.
Sure. Cass, what's the future of advocacy for these groups?
It really is expanding beyond us to the best of our abilities. Larissa and I were talking about, and I think she mentioned earlier, how it's rare here in the U.S. and it's rare in the U.K., right, and Western countries. But in reality, it's pretty common, right? And when we talk about power in numbers, right, we have millions with power in numbers. And so expanding into that and making sure they're represented, and of course, understanding circumstances outside of the U.S. and really just building something that's meaningful and impactful for the broader group. Oftentimes we build things for patient advocacy, and not everybody's within patient advocacy. And so my goal is always to make something that's meaningful for the general hemolytic anemia, those impacted by that. So really just broadening as much as we can. And then also I would say tangibles, resources that, better fit us as a group. And there's, the sky's the limit here with some of the work that we're doing. And, I just think already uncovering some of the data, the commonalities and fatigue and so on and so forth is already a great start. But, taking that data and running with it and providing resources and providing awareness surrounding our hemolytic anemias, I think will be important. So broadening and broadening our reach.
Absolutely. Really quickly before we wrap up, I want to know what your guys' hope is for the Red Cell Revolution in the coming year. Jill?
A little bit more about what we've been saying is I really believe in expanding outside of ourselves and getting into the reach of the area outside of the U.S., areas that don't have access to care, getting outreach to people that don't have the resources, and equity. And I think that's important. And so for me, more of a global reach, and how do you do that, and who do you partner with to do that? I think there are a lot of resources out there, but just expanding the red blood cell revolution message, more promoting more awareness of that.
Larissa, what's your hope for the Red Cell Revolution?
I hope it continues. I never take for granted that things can end. I hope that it grows. I hope that we can use our reach to educate the patient community and the provider community. And of course, we've mentioned, to have a global reach and tackle healthcare disparity and stigma.
Okay.
I am really a proponent of information. I feel like there's just so many unknowns within all three disease states. And so us being able to collect that data, I think, is really powerful because it provides validation for our experiences. And sometimes, it's very much needed in order to manage and cope with, with our disorders. And so I personally hope to see more research within this particular group to uncover just more information and to understand what we're living with a lot better. I think for me, that feeds into everything else, right? If we understand our disorders better and we have that data, I think that pushes us further along, and we can create better treatment options. Advocacy efforts can be better, and just using that data for progress within the three.
Absolutely. I think there's so much we can learn from each other. There's so much we've already learned from each other. And I myself, I'm sure you guys are excited to continue to do this in such a meaningful way. So it's just been such a special group to be a part of, and life-changing on my end as well. So thank you guys so much for joining us for a great conversation. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe and join us on the next episode.